Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Hey.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah.
Friday, right?
It is. Happy Friday.
Yeah. Welcome to the morning show.
Yeah.
And to the Utah studio. You feeling well today, Michelle?
Much better.
Good. I'm just checking on you.
Yeah.
Just making sure you.
this is her like public check-in.
Yeah.
How you doing, Michelle?
Are you feeling good today?
I'm feeling great today.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Excited for today. The morning show is a great topic, and just got a lot happening. We're winding down the last of the prep for the next certification course and for the conference that's coming up. And so those of you who are listening that are going to be there will be in booth 121 and come and have a chat. Say hello. We'd love to see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some fun ideas, and there's a contest there. People can come see us, come see our founding sponsors, and have a chance to win a bucket of money. A bucket of money,
cash. Yeah. It's Vegas, and we know that it will be helpful, but just so y'all know, it involves you going to each of our founding sponsors booths, and you got to be there to win. So
you got to be there to fill out the thing.
Yeah.
Do they have to be present to win the game?
By 5 p.m. everything has to be in on that Wednesday, the last expo, and then we're doing the drawing at 5:45.
But do they have to be in the building?
They have to be there to get their prize. Okay. So we will text them. But if they're not,
so
like,
let's
you got like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna go.
We're gonna So let's make sure those rules are quite clear. But anyway, we're giving away a pile of money. Yeah. So it'd be to help for those who suffered losses at the casinos while in town.
So there's a good reason. Only one entry per.
It's a get yourself home cash bundle. Yeah. So a couple of news items I got. I want to make sure and mention that we said on Wednesday, Jimmy Rambo has moved over to LHPH Capital. Really happy for them for that. Yeah, great move. Great addition. I'm curious to find out if that means Jimmy will ultimately be relocating to Southern California from his home in South Carolina. Going from one coast to the other. I don't know. It's interesting to find out if they're going to just kind of let him stay planted. He obviously has a lot of relationships out east. Oh, yeah. Right? Most of the people that we know that work with LHPH Capital are in the California area. But from what I understand is that as I was reading through, I was on their website yesterday, and he's over Buy Here, Pay Here. They're branching out into Buy Here, Pay Here in their capital providers. So good. So he's there as the expert. It was what it sounds like for the Buy Here, Pay Here branch of capital. Yeah, Mr. Jim Lawrence had shared with me at one point that they were starting to do some Buy Here, Pay Here in addition to their Lease Here, Pay Here. So that's exciting news for the industry. That's one more solid provider to be able to offer a solution. So and we know them. We really we know the people behind the product, and that's one of the reasons why they are one of our founding sponsors. And we know Jimmy well. He has been very supportive of the White Hat movement. And so for those who don't know, Jimmy's had a long career at Spartan Financial, and so he's now moving over to LHPH Capital. So all good. And then our other news was Buckeye Dealership Consulting has renamed to Buckeye Risk Services. Do I have that right? I didn't look it up, but that's my risk management. Okay. And those of you who are familiar with Buckeye, they're a pretty well-known provider. They're one of the founding sponsors or the founders of Buy Here, Pay Here United. Correct. And I get it's there was a video that Rob Fox, who he's like the head of Buckeye, posted, and it's about just being clear about who they are and what they're doing. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I appreciated that. Word is out. Get the word out on that. They're well known, and so you can look up Buckeye. There's a press release and all of that. But it's just they're choosing something that's more reflective of what they do. It's still Buckeye, but it's not Buckeye Dealership Consulting. It's Buckeye Risk Management. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. So and I hope I got that right. If I didn't, someone please pop it in there. But Oh, good. Shall we dive into our topic then?
Anything
else?
No, not at all. I ran across this and actually brought it to your attention. This was a post on what day? It was like
June
last.
6th.
It was last week.
Yeah,
and it was a really, really good post, and I appreciated so much about what it spoke about, because it really aligned an awful lot as well about a lot of the things we talk about and our perspective of the industry.
Right.
And
There's
it just, and so there were a lot of names, Buckeye's actually one of the ones that was named in there. A lot of names that are companies that are named. If you want to know all the company names, get in there, because it's a beautiful endorsement. But there was meat in what was talked about.
Yeah, and I think as much as anything, so the post that Michelle is referring to is on. You can go into the BHPH Success group if you're not currently a member of that, and you're in the BHPH or LHPH industry. Go to Facebook, look up BHPH Success, get into that group. Once you're in there, you can look for Jeffrey Owings, Jeffrey, and find Jeffrey Owings did a post on June 6th.
Yeah.
And so we're referring to that. We're not going to read it necessarily in its entirety today, but it's so what you may not know, Michelle, is since this post came out, I've had people in our V8 group say that they knew him, like he's part of a V8 or a Dealer 20 group that they're a member of. And so some of them have said, he's 40 years in business, very experienced. When he speaks, he's one of those people that people just really tune in and listen to what he's got to say.
Beautiful.
And I can see why.
I'm glad that he's speaking.
Yeah. I'm glad that he spoke up on this
mm-hmm.
and shared it publicly. And it really is kind of his perspective on how the industry's changed, and to an extent how the industry hasn't changed, and kind of how, first of all, he's just enthused about what can happen, what's to come,
what the topography looks like right now. And I really did appreciate in the for one, 40 years that he's been around since the beginning of Buy Here Pay Here, pretty much. Right. So and so he's like been in the trenches with the likes of some of the bigger names in Buy Here Pay Here, and I really when a business, because we've seen, one of the things he mentions is that some of the biggest names are no longer in the business.
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons why we can talk about some of the reasons why. And I would venture to say that those that have weathered the storm of what we've watched happening are those that are not entrenched in the way they always do things.
Good. I think, and let me, just for the benefit of our listeners, let me read at least the first paragraph of what his post says. It'll give you a feel for the flavor of direction he's going. 40 years at Owings Auto Center. And let me tell you, the last 2 or 3 years have been the roughest I've seen in the Buy Here, Pay Here game. We've watched giants fall, dealers with decades of success, alongside plenty of smaller lots who didn't make it through this brutal stretch. If you're reading this, you're one of the survivors. Give yourself a pat on the back, because that's no small feat. So that's basically what he's really kind of leading with, is this idea that people have fallen by the wayside. He is saying, if you survive this, then you are, you're in a position to really garner a lot of business and grow from here, because it's definitely been rough. Couple perspective on his comments about last 2-3 years have been the roughest. We saw Steve Karstens from SGC, Shilson Goldberg and Chung. He did an article a while back where they released their benchmarks or their industry data from last year, and he said for as long as they've been tracking it, last 2024 was the heaviest charge-off year that they've seen in the industry. I don't know what measurement he's using, but just from his perspective, the roughest year in terms of charge-off. I can also tell you, Michelle, just last night we had a V8 dealer group meeting, and I noticed that we're looking at interest coverage in our group, and I think all but one of the members in that particular group were underwater January through May. Okay, so it says that we're still not through it. Dealers are currently experiencing, at least in that small group, I'm not saying that's across the industry. I'm just saying there's a group that heard last night. I pointed that out on the screen that was only one member that was in the black in terms of their interest coverage, which is an indicator that we're still, riding a bit of a downturn in terms of our charge-off experience. And I think it just, first of all, you have to be aware, right? You have to see and know kind of what's going on. And then that lets you kind of make pivots. Jeffrey goes on to talk about AI. Go ahead.
Well, and to that, Jeff is also a member of a 20 group, and being a member of some kind of peer group also helps you keep optics wider.
Good.
And so you're able to see and shift and all of that. One of the things that I love ChatGPT. The one of the talking points that came up was like, we watched giants fall. What happened and why? And it said, when you reflect on the last 2 to 3 years, here's some of the major things that have happened. Inflation, capital shifts have been big, regulatory pressure and operating fatigue too on those. And then it says the thinning of the herd has also exposed structural weakness.
Now, is this coming from him or
this is coming from ChatGPT from like some talking points. And I was like, the thinning of the herd has exposed structural weakness.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
And it's like, but it's also created space.
Yeah.
Space for new dealers to come in, and hopefully those new dealers are observant and open to learning from the mistakes of the giants and the smalls that have not made it, not weathered this storm, so that they can not make the same mistakes. And I love that it was like, inflation is a thing. I mean, like what's happening in our economy is, and capital shifts. You've said capital shifts that you've watched in your time in buy here, pay here. I mean, you had your own dealership and you've been in this for 27 years.
I was a dealer through the 08 years, right?
So during the capital shifts, you watch capital providers ebb and flow, and they come in and they come out. And when they go out, there's like a culling. A lot of times that happens. And then they see that the people that are, it's like they'll watch and it's like, it's booming. And then they come back in. And sometimes it makes me wonder, is there a correlation between them coming in and coming out as far as dealers, this culling, thing that happens?
And let me offer Jim's perspective to add to Jeffrey Owings. So as somebody who's observed that capital ebb and flow, I think there's an element in this that I think Jeffrey's touching on. Doesn't speak to it necessarily that specifically, but why does capital ebb and flow? This is a really broad look. When there's surplus money on Wall Street, they go looking for investment opportunities, and they see that the subprime segment has got a lot of margin in it, a lot of opportunity. They underestimate often the operational requirements associated with managing accounts of folks who have credit trouble. The end. They just they underestimate.
Was that a mic drop?
They come in.
Okay, yeah.
They think they're going to make a lot of money, and they place a lot of money, and it doesn't take long before the operational pressures of that show their head. Right? It's like you begin to recognize the demands of this. And this is why I think it's another element why this is why I think local dealers can serve a buy here, pay here customer better than some private equity group, as an example. It's because you've got to be able to get in the weeds and work with that customer and keep engagement and all these kind of things that are really required in order to support that customer through a 3-year contract, as an example. And so this is why I think it all kind of ties back together. And I think we're seeing too, we're seeing dealers recognize in a way that for the first time the importance of getting their operational house in order.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I know just on that capital markets coming into the space, we've talked to numerous people that are like, we're thinking about getting into the space. This is our background. And I've listened to you like, okay, it's a great place to make money. And be aware that it's very different than
it's
other
not a
businesses.
hands-off business.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna, what I typically tell people that are exploring the industry, and I've seen it in my career, Michelle. You've seen it in the time that you've been with me 5 or 6 years now. You watch me work with clients, and we've seen people come in who have abundance of capital, and they come in and they might engage us for a little bit of coaching help on the front end, and we point them in a direction, and they take off running. I just think there's so much more to learn. You haven't asked the really important questions.
Yeah.
And so it's like you take off running in this industry, and you're going to quickly find out. And I'm afraid you get stung financially in the process of doing that. And so that's the part that I'm watchful about.
Yeah.
It's like we also see that, it used to be, and one of the conversations we had last night, and I'll be speaking on this at the NIADA thing, was a week after next. So on profitability. So it's so interesting in our space, and we'll get back to Jeffrey's post here in a minute. But the tie-ins for what he's talking about from my own perspective to kind of intersect and kind of intertwine with what he's talking about is when we look at profitability. I used to be able to say, and I would, even if I'm meeting a new dealer and we're working through cash flow modeling on the screen, I will tell them, look, in our business, we can almost take profitability for granted. I realize how ridiculous that sounds coming out of my mouth for somebody who's been in a business and struggling to get gross profit or struggling to be profitable. In our business, we have plenty of profit. Why? Because customer doesn't fight us on price. We don't fight us on interest rates. So we have plenty of margin and markup. It's a question of the cash flow. So I'm saying that in the context of we need to map out your cash flow. Profitability will be fine. In fact, we'll have so much profit early that we're going to have a tax problem if we don't manage the cash part of that. And so this is kind of the piece that I think, is something that, and looking at with our dealers now, is like we're seeing lenders press dealers harder at the time of renewal about profitability and some of that kind of stuff. And so I think it's just one more indication that the market has shifted. And dealers who, it used to be, Michelle, that, we had so much margin for error that dealers could sort of fly by the seat of their pants and almost be successful in spite of themselves.
Oh yeah. Well, it is in spite of themselves, and it's to their detriment.
Sometimes with this situation. And then one last thing before I want to get to the AI piece of Jeffrey's post, and I'll just read that paragraph that he wrote on AI. Right. But, when I look at that, I think we met with a dealer earlier in the week and we started digging into the thing about let's establish some enterprise value for you. Let's establish some elements in your business so that, one, your business is more sustainable. Two, if something were to happen to you, the business could, continue to function in your absence, right? And then the last would be, if you should decide to sell, we've got a business that's got some actual market value. Yeah. Go ahead.
Before we go into AI, I'd like to just kind of touch on something that he spoke about before he went into AI. And he says, for the first time in our industry's history, we've got resources and synergy like never before.
That's true. I'd like to see more synergy.
I'd like to see more collaboration. You're starting to see that happen. We're also kind of watching that. What does synergy look like? Does synergy look like a gated synergy? Good. Or is synergy look like an open synergy? Because I am seeing gated synergy happening where it's like very specific people are working with very specific people.
It doesn't mean they're not adding value.
It doesn't mean that they're not adding value, but it does start to create, it's like, we can create this thing. And then, and the open synergy is where it's like working with everybody. Right. Everybody's welcome to the table. And I'm watching some of the synergy thing. There are some that don't see how beneficial that is to dealers to be synergistic with other vendors, and they're closing things off. And there are a lot of dealers that are angry about it.
That's right. We've seen that with certain providers. That was a pretty hot topic in this success group a week or two ago. And so, that's a good example. I think we're certainly going to, at White Hat Way, we're going to be emphasizing collaboration for the benefit of the industry.
Absolutely.
Not just the dealers that are in our community, our group, right? It's like for the benefit of the industry.
Because there are, the whole idea of like a true pure synergy in the industry is everyone is welcome at the table.
Right.
It just is. And it's like, so when we see that there are DMSs that are closing off, we won't work with anyone outside of our own product now that we've created.
You pick any type
it's
of product.
just, and it's like, it leaves people in a lurch. And then when you also, it's like, if the closed synergy, it's like you only have access to this.
Yeah. And listen, these are for-profit companies we're talking about. So obviously they're going to look out for their margins and their market share. It's just that we believe that's possible to do that and still be collaborative and to, create solutions that are for the benefit of dealers. So that's the part that we're just going to continue to highlight those people who are collaborative and who are, kind of creating solutions that are not restricted.
I have a background in tech.
Right.
Not an extensive background, but I understand tech a bit, and I understand open integrations. Like it's that you can easily build a structure in your business that allows for open integrations.
Right.
It's possible. So when it's like, no, we don't have the integration, it's like, that's
the part that, in our podcast that's in production, it'll get released soon. Poor Alan Keat has, met with me, and we started in the BHPH Market Watch, and we talked about some of those elements. And he referred to the industry being fragmented, which in my definition of fragmented industry is like, there's this DMS and there's this provider, and they don't play nice together. And so you've also got the fragmentation of the independent dealer space, because these dealers are independent and they have different business approaches. So it is a little bit fragmented, but I think that's all the more reason for us to be able to collaborate. And so I think AI is a big, it's a large opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and so read that quote. Read
let me read a paragraph.
Because I really like how he brought this into that article. I was like, because he's like, boom. Yeah, go ahead.
And he says, and then there's AI. Oh, man, this is big. We're the first generation of dealers who get to harness artificial intelligence for underwriting, collections, marketing, and training. Imagine smarter credit decisions, tighter collections, sharper marketing campaigns, and training that actually sticks, all powered by AI. If you've made it through the last few years, you're not just a survivor, you're on the cusp of a revolution. It is heartbreaking to think of dealers who hung on for decades only to miss this moment because they couldn't weather the storm. So I think that's really, and some dealers frankly just won't. I mean, that's just a reality. They're just not, they're not going to really involve tech, and they're going to kind of keep doing what they've always done. And that is heartbreaking. It's unfortunate to see that happen. But I do think, Jeffrey's right. Everything that we see about the AI piece it is going to transform every industry.
It absolutely. And unfortunately, and I'm kind of starting to see this shift some, the buy here, pay here industry has been a decade or more behind on anything tech.
Yeah.
How many dealers out there are still using cards in their dealership instead of using tech to manage.
There's some,
I mean, there are, but I'm not a lot anymore, but there are some, and there's just been I don't know if it's an unawareness or a reluctance to lean in, or maybe it could be that there really weren't technology providers that were interested in getting into the space, but it's just boomed. I mean, we're seeing like payment opportunities that it's just like, it's so easy, and it makes it super easy for a consumer to pay their bill and make it kind of fun even in the process. And so, one of the things that when I'm looking at these highlights, it says AI is not a threat, but a co-pilot, especially for those with limited staff. And that's huge, because how many dealers out there, we're doing. We are teaching dealers, get off the hamster wheel. And when we do these, we don't as much anymore, but many of the on-site, when we would be meeting with someone that was new to coming into the industry, that we would talk to both the dealer and their significant other and ask them, what do you really want? And every single spouse that we have talked to said, I want more time.
Mm-hmm.
I want more time with the dealer
Mm-hmm.
to be available for children's things and couples things and all of those kind of things. And so many of them they're younger, they're newer in the business, and they just like, I have to be there. I haven't grown it enough. And
Mm-hmm.
then they get on that hamster wheel and they continue in that mentality where their physical presence in the building becomes an integral part of it being able to operate.
Right.
And so AI is a beautiful way of starting to take some of those things off the plate of a dealer.
Yeah. And they gotta be ready to do that. It's, it's a simple control thing for a lot of them. It's like they just have a hard time letting go of the elements of their
fear
business.
of letting go.
Yeah. And so I think it's part of what stunts the growth, and it's part of what keeps them tethered to their building, a lot. And so that's unfortunate. But I think I got something. I know the next element of what I want to make sure we get covered on his post was around the subject of collateral recovery.
Yeah.
And I agree with what he said here. I think so let me get this on the screen. I didn't think to get this in advance, but I'm going to get the collateral recovery rate formula up for people as we talk about that, so that they can better understand kind of what this is about. So you've got Jeffrey. Let me just read what he said first, because I think that's his perspective.
Can you let's just give a 5th grade definition what collateral recovery rate is.
Yeah, it's basically sometimes I refer to these kind of things as burn rate. It's the rate at which the portfolio is performing, or the rate, I call it, a lot of my numbers, I call it conversion rate, but that's just me using farm boy logic, or, kind of, my own kind of dealer speak that I feel like they can interpret. So it's often what we're really talking about is, how is the business performing? We went a step further. Last night, when we had a group that was saw for the first time, I started introducing in meetings recently a stress test for debt. And so it uses numbers like this to be able to apply. So this is something we're doing now in V8 meetings, is we built in so that every meeting they can see an updated number on how is my portfolio performing and how could it support debt. So I go in and put all of them at the same, interest rate and same advance rate and all. And so it helps them to kind of see, because now you begin to, so what Jeffrey's referring to here, and let me just read his thing and then we can explain the formula. But what he says is, so what's next? We've got to stay sharp and lean into these opportunities. One big focus, our collateral recovery rate, or CRR. Whether you're debt-free or working with a bank, you never know when you'll need a new lender. CRR is their North Star. It shows how well we manage our assets, and it's a number that can make or break their trust in us. Trust is a big word. So let's pour energy into boosting our CRR, making it a shiny badge of honor for any lender looking our way.
AI said on that, why it matters more than ever is because lenders want proof of control, not just contracts. They want to see that you're keeping,
you know how to manage
that, you know how to manage your portfolio.
And I think there are just, we meet a lot of dealers. We see it now. Sometimes they come into V8 and they're deer in the headlights. They just don't, they've never seen these kind of numbers, and that's okay. We're going to coach them through it and help them learn the stuff. But I think, to his point, there are a lot of different calculations. In fact, I said just in our group last night, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said there are 5 or 6 numbers that we would recommend you look at to really have different perspectives on your collateral performance, or your portfolio performance, which is the largest asset in every buyer, payer dealer business, typically, if they've been open for more than 5 minutes. So now the idea is, I told them, I said, now there's probably more like 8 or 9, now that we've started building in some new things that we track in V8, because it gives dealers more ways to measure what's happening. And I think it helps dealers break free of, sometimes we get in a mentality where we get kind of married to our business plan or our business model. And by I don't call people out, but I know that they could look at the numbers and say, I like my business model for various reasons, but I can now see why a bank wouldn't like my business model as a line of credit provider.
And in our day and age, there are very few dealers out there anymore who can bankroll on their own as they're getting started.
Well, because cost of cars up. I mean, the cost per contract is higher.
That's so important that, your business model might have been from a thing, a way of doing it pre-COVID, and it's just different. And
it could still work for some. I just think this gets into the whole question about, and we've got I wrote articles, we got old YouTube videos, we've done podcasts around something I call the volume formula, which is this idea that we really need to do a certain amount of volume to make the math work.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we just sort of are stunted, and we're stunted at a place that's kind of risky if we don't grow to a place where we can enjoy some positive cash. And so, people are going to, and I always say, look, when I meet with a dealer and we're advising, I say, look, it's your name on the building, right? So at the end of the day, you're going to do what works best for you. It's just, we want to introduce you these ideas that, to make yourself have more market value as an enterprise, have your paper have more market value. So because even though you don't have the first inkling about selling paper today, things could change and you might need to liquidate some paper. And so the idea that you would have paper that has good market value is going to be significant in that scenario. And it's going to serve you in the meantime, because that paper is going to produce well. Right. And so it's going to, these are all things we look at.
We've worked with dealers that they know they have a certain framework they have to abide by for their capital providers. And yet they still write paper that they know is outside of that framework. And then they wonder sometimes why they're struggling with certain pieces too. So
let me show that formula before we move away from it, and people can snap a photo of the screen. But this is the RR formula from one of the major lenders in the space. And this is the way we calculate it. I've got a different calculation that generally produces the same results, but principal collected plus repo fair market value. So that's the recovery or the ACV. And there's some question on this. I think one of the things we want to be careful about here is that it's one thing to use the actual value that we would pick when we book the car back in. And it's another thing to have the actual book market value, because the lender tends to lean on the book market. They're not there to see the car. So they're going to lean on the book market value, which is something that came up also in our meeting. We're going to try to start tracking book value in our V8 stuff for those dealers who don't have in the process. We would recommend that. And then you take those numbers, add them together, and you divide that by your portfolio reduction. So this can be done across a period. You can do it a single month. We would recommend doing it across multiple months, or doing it every month and stacking it into a rolling average. But we definitely want you to see trends. So, having that calculation each month as a 3-month or a 6-month rolling average, so you can see when that's trending down. We had one dealer who, was kind of surprised to see that his portfolio had been trending down. And it's like, if you didn't have this math, if you didn't make your time to stack up the math and reconcile the portfolio to make sure we try to reconcile principal plus or minus 1%, so that we can be sure that the numbers that we're looking at are valid. And that we've identified all the movement in the portfolio. And now you apply this formula and you've got a pretty good indication. And I think Jeffrey's exactly right, that this is, if we were to pick a number to measure, I would say, because I always talk about it. Our members probably get tired of hearing me talk about, portfolio performance. I mean, this is where it's at. If we can get our portfolio to perform, it's not about selling more. It's about why put more contracts into a portfolio that's not performing, right?
It's the independent dealer's mindset into buy here, pay here was like, well, I can sell myself out of this problem.
Right.
And it's like that does not work. That drives you off.
I would say that's even less true today than it was pre-COVID. Right?
Absolutely.
It's probably less true. Yeah. So anyway, I would, let me read the one last part of his post. He closes with, the buy here, pay here world is buzzing with possibilities, and I'm fired up about what's ahead. We've got the tools, the community, and the tech to make this next chapter our best yet. Let's grab these opportunities, tighten up our operations, and show the world what us survivors can do. It's really great, Jeff. And I would just say, the work that we're doing at White Hat Way, we would add, when we can put a white hat badge on people who not only have clean operations in the way that you're talking about, but we can sort of place an emblem on them that is representative of character and integrity and being trustworthy and all those kind of things. That's what White Hat Way is about. Mm-hmm. So as a coaching company and as a brand solution, we are working to make sure that we can add that element to what Jeff's talked about here. And so shout out to Jeff. Thank you. Yeah. I reached out to him and made sure he was okay with us, quoting from his post, and he said, he was happy for us to do that, and so we were grateful for that, and really grateful for him sharing his perspective. Yeah. And then I'd love to invite him on the podcast whenever we can coordinate time.
I think there's a lot more that we can talk about. I appreciate, because he didn't really mention in the article that he was a member of a 20 group, and I would like to have the conversation with him. How much of your perspective and your weathering the storm can you attribute to being a member of a 20 group? Because any kind of opportunity a dealer has to learn from others is really going to help strengthen your dealership. Mm-hmm. And so even listening to our podcast, you've got Independent Dealers podcast, other things that are out there that are free, and then getting involved in some kind of a peer group. Mm-hmm. Now we can go live to a conference and sit at a table and then talk to other dealers. Mm-hmm. That's and it's very valuable. Mm-hmm. It's a one-off. A lot of different peer groups, whether it be 20 groups or the V8 groups, is that you start to get into deep conversations that you can't have around a table at a conference. Sure. These are ongoing conversations, and you get to really understand what's happening in someone's business model, and then you can tweak your own, because it's like, oh, this is a thing that's happening. That can't happen unless you're involved in some kind of a peer group. So, if that's something that you're looking at doing, or if there's something else that we can help you with, please don't hesitate to call. I mean, we can get you. I know that there's at the conference, there's 20 groups that'll be talking a lot about that. V8, we look at those. We have a lot of dealers that are involved in both 20 groups and V8. It's a different way of looking at things. It's a different way of meeting, and it can be used as a springboard into a 20 group as well. Sure. So
I think it's a good place to start. I think people moving toward a 20 group and not sure. I think one, it's more affordable and easier to plug into because you're just doing virtual. But I think people can do both. I think they serve different things, as you said. They scratch different itches. So.
And I wanted to, George, we just appreciate you, George, so much. He says, I suspect most of those survivors who have been referenced are white hat dealers. Yeah, whether they know it or not. And because it is about something more than just the day-to-day. So if there's anything we can do to help you, please call, text 903-816-0216, 903-816-0216.
And don't forget, that's my cell phone. So if you just have a funny meme that you think I would enjoy,
do you remember, was it last year you said, send me cat memes? And Scott Shamrell from Neo immediately sent you cat memes. Yeah. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it's part of
and it absolutely is.
But you can always reach me directly. I'm happy to talk to you at any time.
Just, to kind of, it's like, let's honor those that weren't able to weather it. And their absence, it's like part of what ChatGPT said, in their absence, or use their absence as motivation. Yeah. Don't waste the chances that they didn't get or that they're not going to be able to take. So, hey, everybody, happy Friday. We really appreciate that you're joining us and taking some time to listen. That means, in a way, that you are interested in learning more. Mm-hmm. And so good on you, because it's a really important thing to always be open to learning new things.
Big announcements next Wednesday. Be sure to join us back here then.
All right. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and we will see you on Wednesday with another episode of White Hat Wednesday. Yep. Have a great day, guys.